Welcome to Constitutional Crisis Part 1. This is a multi-part series about what do we do if Trump gets into constitutional issues. He's breaking the law as we speak. What he wants to do is flood the zone. What that means is, and this is a Steve Bannon reference, just overwhelm people with lots of content and executive orders. And the whole idea of doing that is so that he can manipulate the game, get people apathetic, and make sure that people and the media aren't covering enough so he can sneak stuff in off to the side, like the 50-page bill he has to cut back, for instance, Social Security, veterans benefits, Medicare, Medicaid. It's absolutely insane. But the thing is that he thinks that if he shows power and strength by showing up, he wins. His massive action shows weakness and very little effectiveness. So how do we fight this? The first thing we got to do is we got to take on the fact that he's unbelievable. Do not believe him. He's there to get you to believe the perceived power. Yeah, only people believing that is the MAGA people. Also, don't normalize him. It's not okay. That's the main problem with legacy media. They keep normalizing this as though this was okay. I mean, we saw this with Kamala Harris. Here they are questioning Kamala Harris about everything, but they're normalizing the fact that he's doing these things. In other words, Kamala, just to quote Van Jones, had to be flawless while he gets to be lawless. He's a master manipulator, and he does this all the time. And the core thing you got to remember, he's breaking constitutional law. See, that's why he's losing with these judges. The judicial branch is not playing. 10 judges have ruled against this man in the last 3+ weeks. Why have they done that? Because they know for a fact that he's breaking just straight up law. Like birthright citizenship is the 14th Amendment. You can't just decide what law you want. However, the White House press secretary, she said, and I quote, that this administration finds the legalization of birthright citizenship unconstitutional. In other words, she finds the Constitution and the administration find the Constitution unconstitutional. You don't get to decide what is constitutional or not. The executive branch enforces the Constitution, not interprets. That is the judicial branch's responsibility. And that's why he's been losing and getting struck down left and right and frustrated. And now he's going after judges. Some of these MAGA people have gone after judges' families and really just harassed them at their work and at their homes. It is really, really sick. And it's against the law, by the way. It'll get them in jail. But understand what really is happening. 22 states, attorney generals, AGs, and governors are suing this guy. The ACLU and other organizations like the 2 Treasury federal unions are suing this guy, their administration, the Trump administration. In addition to that, you got college students suing the Trump administration. You even got Quakers suing the Trump administration. You have so many people, even class action suits against the Trump administration flying inside of the first 3 weeks. And in some of these cases, we are winning. We have not lost one case. They're either in pattern or in process or won. And the federal judges have ruled against Trump. We're winning. He's losing. But here's the really big question. Will Trump fight the judges? And here's the thing you got to understand. J.D. Vance put out something talking about judges shouldn't be challenging the executive branch's legitimate powers. The problem is they're not legitimate. They broke the Constitution. And this is coming from J.D. Vance, a Yale law graduate. Now, here's where it gets ugly. Can Trump say, well, I'm just going to ignore it? Well, he's already tried to ignore the freezing of the assets, and another judge came in and got on him about freezing those assets going out to health programs because he froze them up. And the judges came at him. He was lagging. But what if he says, I don't care what the judges say, I'm going to do it? That's why we're here, to talk about that. I'm going to point out some scenarios to you and who's involved and the players. So let's get started. If our president decides they're going to ignore federal judge orders, the federal judge has within the law to hold them within contempt. Okay, great. What does that mean? That means that warnings are going to go out to the president. Let me take off my glasses for this one. Warnings are going to go out to the president of the United States that you're in contempt. If they hold them in contempt, then the judge can get marshals to arrest Donald Trump. The question becomes, well, if you hold him in contempt, then why in the world would the DOJ comply since the marshals are under the DOJ? He could just say, don't follow that order. And the DOJs could stop the marshals. But there's several scenarios that can go down here. Before the contempt, let me point out something. Let's say the cases he lost so far and all the other ones get bounced up to Supreme Court. It's going to be a little hard to do that because Supreme Court only takes 1% of cases. So even though he has a conservative Supreme Court, the majority of the lower courts see all the court cases, and there's a good chance the Supreme Court can choose not to take on any of these cases whatsoever. Then it stays, whatever the judgment is. And right now, they're losing. So there's that. Now, what else can we look at? We can look at the fact that even within the courts, if the Supreme Court takes something on, you're challenging them to bring their head up against the Constitution, which becomes not a question of conservative or liberal law. That comes a question of, are you going to believe and actually stand by the law of the land? Because this is very clear checks and balances. Elon and Trump have no legal wherewithal to go in and shut down departments, to shut down federal workers and fire them, offer them buyouts, and just fire general inspectors before the 30-day notice. No, they don't. They don't have that ability. And that is something that is handled by another legislative branch, by the legislative branch, absolutely. Hands down. That is very clear. That's why he's losing across the board. But let's go back to the contempt part. So what happens then? The marshals are going out. The DOJ says, hope, don't do that. This is where we get in a constitutional crisis. Because if the DOJ tells them no, the feds now, the federal judges now have to get the balls to tell some authority, whether it's FBI or marshals or whatever, to hold the marshals who didn't follow the law responsible and to get the head of the DOJ in contempt of court and have them arrested as well. And then the question becomes, is Secret Service going to capitulate with this order? If they are within oath, they will. And that's what we're depending on. The core of this whole talk is, can we depend on those who swore an oath to follow it? And here's the psychological part. Can we depend on people to have their self-interest in mind? Because if you don't follow that court order and you are a U.S. Marshal, what's worse? You getting in trouble with the DOJ or you having a federal court order against you and you going to jail? Are you going to ruin your career and your family for that? Because if you get fired out the DOJ, you could still maybe work the private sector, whatever, but you were following the law, the federal judges and the law. The other part that comes in that is that if the head of the DOJ, Bondi, does not follow that law, she's going to ruin her law career. She will be disbarred. She will be disbarred, I guarantee you. Maybe not immediately, but she will be disbarred. And she's going to jail. If the judges are really on business, and so far they have been on business, they are going to get her. Hands down. Bondi, the Attorney General, is very smart. I don't think she's going to risk that. I think she's going to talk to the president. I think that all of the president's men and women are going to talk to him. And the judge is going to try to talk to them. And they're going to encourage others to talk to them. I would like to see the previous presidents and vice presidents talk to him. Because this is going to be a first. And if you think about it, I said earlier, self-interest, right? So does Trump. Trump became president so he could avoid persecution. A prosecution. Persecution and prosecution. He did that so he could stay out of jail. So you mean to tell me you campaign to stay out of jail only to go to jail as the president? Because if the feds are on business, and I believe they are, they will go and send people after the president. The Secret Service has to capitulate with the law, and those who are sworn believers of the law will follow it. It's not about having an oath to the president. You swore an oath to the Constitution. Sure, there are going to be some Trump loyalists in the U.S. Marshals, in the feds, in the Secret Service, but then there's others that will not. That's what you got to understand. Self-interest. Because if they refuse, then the judge can send people after them, and they ruin their careers. Self-interest. And Trump is a punk. Remember, overall, he's a punk. He's not going to take up somebody who says they're going to put him in cuffs, shut him down, take his power, and embarrass him. See, if it looks like he's going to get embarrassed, he's going to withdraw. How do we know that? Because the judges shut down his $1 trillion freeze real quick. And then what did he do? He rescinded immediately the order from the White House and tried to play it off. He doesn't want that smoke. He doesn't. But if he wants to push it, the judges are not playing. They're coming for him. And the question becomes, do the U.S. Marshals, do the police go after this man? I haven't mentioned something else important. These are the United States. What does that mean? That means basically it's a decentralized government. Why do you think the 22 states are suing Donald Trump's administration? And so far, they've been winning. Why do you think they're after him? Because the states can come after a president as well. That's why he's a felon. He couldn't pardon himself from that. That's why Elon Musk is going to jail, because he won't be able to pardon Elon if he's sued by the states. If the states convict him, a president cannot pardon anybody convicted by the states. They need it from the governor. Since the governor's suing, not going to work out. His best bet is to capitulate and stand by and stand back. Step back and stop getting into this crap show. Because if he wants to test the Constitution will test him. Follow me and subscribe for more. I got a second part coming up, possibly a third one. Also see Thieves in the White House, which is another great playlist I have. I give very exclusive long content here in YouTube, so it's worth to subscribe, and it's free. And here's the other one. I also have another one on Elon that I put out talking about Elon's evil plans. Let's go.